Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a giant, really. Stephen R. Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, where do you even start with a book that's had such a massive impact?
You're right, it's monumental.
Yeah.
Published back in '89, and it just exploded, became like the handbook in so many businesses for personal development.
It's everywhere.
It really is. And our mission today, I think, isn't just to, list the habits like a shopping list. It's more about getting into the structure, the
Yeah.
the blueprint underneath them all, what makes them actually work together
Exactly, because the first thing that jumps out, and Covey is so explicit about this, is that he's not offering quick fixes.
at all.
He really rails against what he calls the personality ethic.
Yeah.
Just learning some smooth techniques, how to schmooze people, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he saw that as superficial, manipulative even in the long run. He argued pretty forcefully that any real lasting effectiveness has to come from something deeper.
From principles, right? Things like character, integrity.
It's exactly integrity, humility, fairness, patience. These sort of timeless universal principles, he believed that's the bedrock. Trying to use the collaboration habits like win-win or synergy without that solid foundation of character,
Uh-huh.
well, the sources suggest it's like trying to build, I don't know, a fancy building on shaky ground. It just won't hold up.
Okay, so that foundation, that structure, he lays it out as a kind of journey, doesn't he? A maturity continuum.
That's the key framework. The whole thing is organized around this progression. He says we all start out in dependence. As kids, we rely on others for everything: food, shelter, guidance.
Sure, that makes sense.
Then the first big step, the first major challenge in life is to achieve independence. Self-mastery, being able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Right. You can manage yourself, make your own decisions.
But he argues that's not the end goal.
Hmm.
Independence is vital, but it can also be, well, limiting, maybe even a bit lonely. The highest level, especially in our interconnected world, is interdependence.
So that's about working effectively with others, collaboration.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that together we can achieve far more than any one of us can alone. So independence is about I. Interdependence is about we.
Dependence, independence, interdependence. Got it.
And the habits map directly onto this journey. The first 3 get you to independence.
The private victory.
Right. Then the next 3 habits build on that to achieve interdependence.
The public victory.
Exactly. And the 7th habit, that's about keeping the whole system running smoothly, keeping yourself sharp.
Okay, that roadmap makes a lot of sense. So let's start where he starts. The private victory. Moving from dependence to independence, right? The private victory. It really feels like Covey's saying, look, before you can effectively lead a team or even be a good partner, you've got to get your own act together.
That's absolutely the essence of it. You need that internal foundation first, and it all kicks off with habit 1. Be proactive.
This one sounds simple, but it feels profound.
It is. It's probably the most fundamental shift. The core idea is taking full responsibility for your life. Not partial responsibility, full responsibility.
Meaning?
Meaning you recognize that you are the one driving the bus. Your life isn't just a result of your circumstances or what other people do. It's a result of your choices, your responses. Proactivity is about choosing your response.
Instead of just reacting.
Exactly.
No.
Covey talks a lot about reactive language versus proactive language. Reactive people say things like, there's nothing I can do, or he makes me so mad, or I have to do this.
Yeah, I hear that stuff all the time. It puts the control outside yourself.
Precisely. The reactive person is driven by feelings, by conditions, by their environment. If the weather's good, they feel good. Someone treats them well, they're happy. Their mood is controlled externally.
Okay.
The proactive person, though, understands there's a space, a critical space between what happens to them, the stimulus, and how they respond to it.
The space between stimulus and response.
Yes, and in that space lies our power to choose,
Okay.
our freedom. It might only be a split second, but in that moment we can choose a response based on our values, not just our mood or the circumstances.
So instead of blaming the traffic jam for being late and stressed,
The proactive person accepts the traffic is outside their control, but chooses how they respond. Maybe they use the time to listen to something educational, or mentally plan their day, or even just practice patience. They refuse to give control of their emotions to the traffic.
they own their response, that core belief. I am the creative force of my life.
That's the mantra. And you mentioned values. This ties directly back to that principle of integrity, doesn't it? Acting in line with your chosen values, not just reacting based on impulse.
Yeah, it does. You decide what matters and you act accordingly.
And to help manage this, to focus that proactive energy, Covey gives us this brilliant tool, the circles. The circle of concern and the circle of influence.
Okay, let's break those down. They sound really practical.
They are incredibly practical. The circle of concern is huge. It includes everything you might worry about or think about: global politics, the economy, what other people think, maybe even the weather.
All the stuff you read about online and get worked up over.
Exactly. But the key is you have little or no direct control over these things. Reactive people spend enormous amounts of time and energy complaining, worrying, fretting about things in their circle of concern.
And achieve.
Pretty much nothing, except maybe raising their blood pressure.
Okay.
They actually shrink their influence because they're seen as complainers or victims.
Okay, so the proactive person flips that.
Completely. They focus their time and energy almost exclusively on their circle of influence,
Which contains.
the things you can do something about: your health, your skills, your work habits, your attitude, how you treat people, the quality of your work, your preparedness for a meeting.
The things within your direct control.
Yes, and here's the magic. By focusing energy only on your circle of influence, making small improvements, taking initiative, that circle actually starts to expand.
How so?
Well, if you consistently do excellent work, influence, you gain trust and responsibility, expanding your influence within your job. If you work on your communication skills, influence, you can better affect team decisions. Your positive attitude influence can influence the mood of those around you.
So you're not wasting energy on things you can't change, and the energy you do invest creates positive results, which grows your ability to impact things.
That's the positive upward spiral. Proactive people grow their influence. Reactive people often find theirs shrinks because they neglect the areas they could control.
Okay, habit 1 gives us the control, the sense of agency. But control without direction is just spinning your wheels, right? We need to know where we're going.
Exactly. Which leads us straight into habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Defining your destination.
Yes. If habit 1 says you're the driver, habit 2 asks, okay, driver, where are you headed? What's the destination on your map? The core idea is to know really clearly what you want to achieve long-term, and maybe even more fundamentally, what kind of person you want to be before you start taking significant action.
Don't just start climbing the ladder without checking if it's leaning against the right wall.
That's Covey's famous analogy for
Yeah.
it. Perfect. And central to this habit is the concept of the two creations.
Tell me about that. It sounds intriguing.
It's a really powerful idea. Covey says all things are created twice, first mentally, then physically. Think about building a house.
Okay.
There's the physical creation, the actual bricks, mortar, wood. Before any of that happens, there's the mental creation, the detailed blueprint, the architectural plans.
Right. You wouldn't just start nailing boards together randomly.
Of course not. If the blueprint, mental creation, is flawed, the house, physical creation, will be flawed no matter how well you build it. The same applies to our lives, our careers, our families. We need that mental blueprint first.
So the practical application here is creating a personal mission statement, your own life's blueprint.
Exactly. It's about defining your personal constitution. What are your core values? What principles will guide your decisions when things get tough? What do you want your life to ultimately stand for?
That sounds big and maybe a bit daunting. How do you make sure it's not just some, generic statement you write once and forget, or that it doesn't become too rigid?
That's a really important point. It shouldn't be rigid like handcuffs, but it also can't be wishy-washy. It needs to be grounded in those timeless principles we talked about: integrity, contribution, fairness, etc. And it needs to be reviewed and revisited. Covey suggests a pretty intense visualization exercise to get to the heart of it. Imagine your own funeral.
Wow, okay.
And imagine different people getting up to speak: a family member, a friend, a work colleague, someone from your community. What would you want them to honestly say about you? About your character, your contributions, the difference you made?
That certainly puts things in perspective. That defines the end you should have in mind.
It does. And that vision, captured in your mission statement, becomes your personal standard, your compass. When you face choices, big or small, you can measure them against that statement. Does this opportunity, this decision, move me closer to the person I want to be and the life I want to live?
So it provides the why behind your actions and helps you filter out distractions or paths that don't align with your core values.
Precisely. It gives you the criteria to make proactive choices. Habit 1, based on your deepest values, not just immediate pressures or desires.
Okay, so habit 1, I'm in charge. Habit 2, Here's where I'm going based on my values. Now we need to connect the dots. How do we actually live this day to day? That must be habit 3.
You got it. Habit 3 is put first things first. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's the practical, physical creation that follows the mental creation of habit 2. It's about execution.
Okay, so prioritizing, time management.
Yes, but it's more than just traditional time management, which often focuses only on efficiency. Habit 3 is about prioritizing based on importance, not just urgency. It's about translating your vision and values, habit 2, into action, using your proactive choice, habit 1.
Ah, the importance versus urgency distinction. That feels critical because we're constantly bombarded by urgent things, aren't we? Emails pinging, phones ringing, people demanding our attention now.
Absolutely. Covey calls it the tyranny of the urgent. Many urgent tasks feel important, but often they're not connected to our long-term goals or values at all. They're just loud.
So how do we manage this? How do we focus on what's truly important?
This is where Covey introduces his famous time management matrix. It's a simple grid, but profoundly useful. It categorizes tasks based on 2 dimensions, urgent and important.
Okay, let's break down those 4 quadrants.
Sure. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. These are crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects that have become critical, fires that need putting out.
We all spend time there, right?
You have to sometimes, but living in Q1 leads to stress, burnout, constant firefighting. It's reactive.
Got it. What's next?
Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important. These are many interruptions, some phone calls, some meetings, tasks that are urgent to someone else but don't align with your important goals.
Yeah.
It's the deception quadrant. You feel busy, but you're not necessarily effective.
Oh, I know that feeling. Lots of activity, little accomplishment.
Exactly. Then there's quadrant 4, not urgent and not important. These are time wasters, trivia, some pleasant activities done to excess, escape activities. We need some downtime, but too much Q4 is obviously unproductive.
Okay, so that leaves the magic quadrant. Quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2 is the heart of effective personal management. These activities are important, but not urgent.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Planning, prevention activities, building relationships, exercising, professional development, seeking out new opportunities, preparing proactively for things. Basically all the stuff that builds long-term capability and prevents crises from happening in the first place.
The stuff we know we should do.
But rarely get around to, because it doesn't scream for our attention today. It has no immediate deadline pressing down on us.
So why is it so hard to focus on quadrant 2? Why do we get sucked into Q1 and Q3?
Well, a couple of reasons. Q1 crises demand immediate attention. They're unavoidable sometimes. And Q3 interruptions often feel good. We get a quick hit from responding to an email or solving someone else's minor problem. It feels productive, even if it isn't really advancing our core goals.
Whereas Q2 activities.
Q2 activities require proactivity, habit 1, discipline and a clear sense of purpose, habit 2. Their payoff is often delayed. Building a key relationship takes time. Strategic planning doesn't give you an immediate dopamine hit. It requires patience.
So how does an effective person actually do this? How do they carve out time for the important but not urgent?
They have to consciously schedule quadrant 2 activities. You literally block out time in your calendar for planning, for exercise, for strategic thinking, for key relationship calls. You treat these appointments with yourself as seriously as appointments with others.
What does that mean?
It means learning to say no. A principled no to activities that fall into quadrant 3 or 4. Saying no to the urgent but unimportant is actually saying yes to your truly important goals defined in habit 2.
So it's a mindset shift. Instead of prioritizing your schedule, fitting things into the time you have, you need to schedule your priorities.
That's the key takeaway. Schedule your priorities. Focus on importance. Manage urgency. Effective people are opportunity-minded, focusing on QII, not problem-minded, constantly reacting to Q1 and Q3.
Wow. Okay, so these first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, they work together powerfully. They build that internal foundation.
Exactly. They constitute the private victory. They move you from being dependent on circumstances or others to being independent, capable, self-managing, directed by your own values. You've got your own house in order.
That's a huge achievement in itself. But Covey says that's not the peak, right?
Right. It's the essential foundation, but true large-scale success in almost any field requires moving beyond just yourself. It requires collaboration.
Okay, so we've achieved independence, we're proactive, we have direction, we manage ourselves effectively, but now we need to interact successfully with others. This is the shift to the public victory, moving towards interdependence.
Yes, and this is where many highly competent independent people can actually stumble. They're so good on their own, they sometimes struggle with genuine collaboration or trusting others.
Because interdependence requires a different skill set.
It does. It requires understanding relationships, communication, and cooperation. But the beauty is, having achieved the private victory, habits 1 to 3, means you enter these interactions from a place of strength and security. You don't need validation from others. You're not threatened by different viewpoints.
You have that core of integrity and self-worth.
Exactly, which allows you to engage in the habits of collaborative success. And the first habit here is a radical shift in thinking. Habit 4, think win-win.
Win-win. It sounds nice, but really, always. What about competition?
That's the immediate reaction, isn't it? Sounds great, but life's not always like that. Covey tackles this head on. The core concept is seeking mutual benefit in all human interactions. It's a frame of mind, a philosophy that says relationships and agreements should work for everyone involved.
So it's not just about winning a negotiation. It's about finding a solution where both sides feel good about the outcome.
Yes, and crucially, feel good about the relationship going forward. Covey contrasts win-win with other paradigms. Win-lose, I win, you lose, the authoritarian or competitive approach. Lose-win, I lose, you win, being a doormat, seeking approval. Lose-lose, we both lose, the result of conflict between two stubborn win-lose types. And win, just focusing on getting what I want, regardless of others.
Okay, but let's push on that always idea. What if resources are genuinely scarce? What if it is a zero-sum game? Doesn't someone have to lose sometimes?
Covey acknowledges that not every single transaction can be win-win. Sometimes you might compete and win, win-lose, or you might compromise. But he argues the overarching paradigm, the default approach, must be win-win if you want long-term effectiveness and healthy relationships.
Why? What's the danger of consistently going for win-lose if you're strong enough to pull it off?
Because you destroy trust. You create enemies, or, at best, reluctant compliance. If you constantly force others into a lose position, they won't want to work with you, they won't be committed to the solutions, and they might even look for ways to undermine you later. It poisons the well for future interactions. The relationship itself is the most valuable long-term asset in an interdependent reality.
So win-win is about playing the long game, prioritizing the relationship alongside the result.
Absolutely. It stems from what he calls an abundance mentality, the belief that there's plenty for everyone, let's grow together. It contrasts with the scarcity mentality, which sees life as a fixed pie, where one person's gain must be another's loss.
And what if you genuinely can't find a solution where both sides feel they win?
Then Covey advocates for win-win or no deal.
No deal, meaning you just walk away.
Yes. If you can't reach an agreement that truly benefits both parties and respects the relationship, it's often better to agree to disagree respectfully and say no deal. This preserves the relationship and avoids forcing a bad compromise that leaves resentment simmering.
Okay, that takes courage, but it protects the long-term potential. So, win-win sets the frame for positive interaction. What's next for effective collaboration?
Next comes the crucial skill of communication, embodied in habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
This sounds like simple advice, but I suspect it's incredibly hard to practice.
It's arguably the most challenging habit for many people. Our default mode is usually the opposite. We want to get our point across first. We listen with the intent to reply, not to understand.
We're busy formulating our response while the other person is still talking.
Exactly. We filter everything they say through our own experiences, our own biases. We jump in with advice, with our own story, with judgment. Covey says this completely short-circuits real communication.
So what does seeking first to understand actually look like?
It means practicing empathic listening. This isn't just hearing the words. It's listening with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. It's trying to genuinely see the world the way the other person sees it, to understand their perspective, their feelings, their frame of reference, before you try to make them understand yours.
So it's like putting yourself in their shoes.
Deeply. It involves reflecting back not just the content of what they said, but the feeling behind it. So it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated about X, or if I understand correctly, your main concern is Y. Is that right? You're trying to get inside their reality.
That requires patience and silencing your own agenda for a while.
Completely. You have to resist the urge to immediately solve their problem or tell them why they're wrong. You first have to make them feel heard and understood. Covey calls this making deposits in the emotional bank account. Understanding is a huge deposit.
And why is this so critical for influence and collaboration? Why does understanding first lead to being understood later?
Because once someone feels genuinely understood, they become much more open to listening to you. You've shown respect, you've validated their perspective, even if you don't agree with it, and you've built trust. Only then have you earned the psychological airspace to present your own ideas effectively.
So understanding builds the bridge for your own message to cross.
Perfectly put. Trying to force your message across before building that bridge of understanding often leads to defensiveness, arguments, and breakdown. Empathic listening dissolves resistance.
Okay, so we have the win-win attitude, habit 4, and the deep understanding from listening, habit 5. What happens when we bring those together?
That's when the magic happens. That's habit 6. Synergize.
Synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
That's the essence of it. Synergy is about creative cooperation. It's taking the win-win attitude and the empathic communication skills and using them to produce results that are far better than what anyone could have achieved alone.
So it's not just compromise.
Definitely not. Compromise is often 1 plus 1 equals 1.5. Both sides give something up. Synergy is 1 plus 1 equals 3 or 10 or 100. It's
Wow.
about creating new, better alternatives that weren't on the table before.
How does that actually work? How do differences lead to better outcomes?
Synergy happens when you genuinely value the differences in people, differences in perspective, experience, style. Instead of seeing difference as a threat or an annoyance, you see it as an opportunity.
Because someone with a different viewpoint might see things you miss.
Exactly. If you approach collaboration with a win-win mindset, habit 4, and use empathic listening, habit 5, to truly understand those different perspectives, you can combine those insights creatively. You can say, okay, I see your point, and here's my point. How can we combine the best of both? Or find a third way that honors both our needs and insights.
But doesn't bringing different viewpoints together often create conflict or tension initially?
It absolutely can. Synergy often requires navigating that tension respectfully. If everyone agrees immediately, you might not be pushing hard enough for the best solution. The key is using habits 4 and 5 to handle that creative vibration constructively. You trust that by working through the differences, you'll arrive at a superior outcome.
So it's about transforming potential conflicts into creative breakthroughs.
Yes, it's believing that together we can create what none of us could alone. It requires humility, admitting you don't have all the answers, and courage expressing your views while being open to others. It's the pinnacle of interdependent communication and collaboration.
Okay, that makes sense. Habits 4, 5, and 6 build on each other to create effective teamwork and partnerships. That completes the public victory, moving us firmly into interdependence.
We're now capable of not just managing ourselves, but collaborating effectively to achieve shared goals.
But even with all these habits working, you could still burn out, right? You need to maintain the system.
Precisely. You've built this high-performance engine, but it needs regular maintenance.
Which brings us to the final habit, habit 7, sharpen the saw. This feels like the one that keeps everything else going.
It absolutely is. It's the habit of continuous self-renewal. It's about preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, yourself. Without habit 7, the other 6 habits will eventually fade or become ineffective.
Like the woodcutter Covey talks about, who's too busy sawing to stop and sharpen his saw.
Exactly. He thinks he doesn't have time to sharpen the saw, but the duller it gets, the harder he has to work for diminishing results.
Yeah.
We do the same thing we get so busy doing that we neglect the maintaining of our capacity to do.
So sharpen the saw is about taking time out for what specifically?
Covey identifies 4 key dimensions of our nature that require regular, balanced renewal. Think of them as keeping your personal production capability, PC, in top shape.
Okay, what are the 4?
First is the physical dimension. This is pretty straightforward. Exercise, nutrition, stress management, getting enough rest.
Taking care of your body?
Right. Because your physical health impacts everything else. Your energy levels, your mood, your resilience, your ability to be proactive, habit 1, and handle stress, Q1. Neglect this, and your capacity shrinks.
Makes sense. Second.
The mental dimension. This is about keeping your mind sharp and growing. It involves things like reading, learning, writing, planning, visualizing, connecting back to habit 2. It's about continuous education, expanding your paradigms, thinking critically.
So lifelong learning, basically, preventing mental stagnation.
Exactly. Keeping your mental tools sharp so you can analyze, create, and adapt effectively.
Okay, third dimension.
This is the social-emotional dimension.
Right.
This ties very closely to the public victory habits 4, 5, 6. It's about investing in your key relationships, practicing empathy, seeking mutual benefit, making contributions to others. It's about keeping your emotional bank accounts full.
So renewal here means actively practicing habits 4, 5, and 6, nurturing those connections.
Yes, and focusing on your own intrinsic security and sense of worth, which comes from the private victory, so you can interact positively with others. It's about emotional resilience and relational health.
And the final dimension.
The spiritual dimension. This isn't necessarily about religion, though it can be for some. It's about connecting with your core values, your center, your commitment to your purpose. Habit 2.
How do people do that?
It could be through meditation, spending time in nature, listening to inspiring music, prayer, reading scripture or philosophical texts, clarifying your values, practicing service. It's whatever lifts you, inspires you, and reconnects you to those timeless principles that guide your life. It provides leadership to your life.
So Sharpen the Saw isn't just one activity, it's a balanced commitment to renewing yourself physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and spiritually.
Balanced is the key word. Neglecting any one area will impact the others. You can't be a brilliant thinker, mental, if you're physically exhausted. You can't build great relationships, social, emotional, if your own values are unclear.
And this is a quadrant 2 activity, isn't it? Important, but usually not urgent.
The ultimate quadrant 2 activity. It rarely screams for attention, but consistently investing time in sharpening the saw is what makes all the other habits sustainable and effective long term. It's investing in your capacity to produce. #tag outro.
Okay, so we've walked through the whole journey. Dependence to independence via the private victory habits 1, 2, 3. Then independence to interdependence via the public victory habits 4, 5, 6. And finally, sustaining it all with habit 7, sharpen the saw.
It's a powerful, integrated framework.
And when you pull back and look at the whole picture, Covey's central message seems crystal clear. Real effectiveness isn't about tricks or luck. It's a result of living by principles. It's a habitual way of living.
Absolutely. And those principles we kept mentioning, integrity, fairness, humility, service, patience, they're not just nice ideas. They're the threads woven through every single habit. Proactivity requires integrity. Win-win requires fairness and abundance. Empathic listening requires humility. They're the operating system.
And that core prerequisite really stands out. Personal growth comes before interpersonal success. You have to win the private victory before you can truly succeed in the public victory.
You really do. Trying to fake habits, 4, 5, or 6, trying to manipulate others into win-win, or pretending to listen empathically without the character foundation from habits 1, 2, and 3, it just doesn't work long-term. People see through it. You need that internal strength, that security, that integrity first. It has to be built from the inside out.
Which leads us, as always, to a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Covey grounds everything in timeless principles and defines our direction with the personal mission statement in Habit 2. But life changes, right? We change careers, families grow, the world shifts. So the question is, how do you consistently measure and, maybe more importantly, critically recalibrate that personal mission statement over the decades? How do you ensure it continues to reflect those deep, timeless principles in your authentic self and doesn't just become a reflection of, say, temporary societal pressures or outdated ambitions?
That's a deep one. It really speaks to the ongoing nature of Habit 2 and Habit 7 working together. It's that quadrant 2 vigilance, isn't it? Constantly checking if the blueprint you wrote years ago still truly aligns with the enduring principles and the person you aspire to be today. It requires that conscious, sometimes difficult, but absolutely vital investment in self-awareness and renewal.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.